Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Commander's Corner. I'm JadeXyan, and joining me today are Captain Benzie.
Ahoy!
Jen Silos.
Hello there.
And our guest this month, FourCourtJester.
Hello, hello. Greetings and salutations.
FourCourt, if you'd like to introduce yourself a bit and what you do.
No, absolutely, Jade. I've held many different hats over the years, but back in 2010, I started with a game called Heroes of Newerth, and I was introduced to the concept of nerds in suits on cameras talking about video games, and I just completely fell in love with that concept. So I've been striving to try to live up to it ever since. I've gone through quite a few different games throughout the years, but strategy and MOBA, that's where I like to shine. It's where I like to reside. And when I saw Command & Conquer from a buddy of mine, because I was in the States for an event, he's like, yeah, this is the new Command & Conquer game. It's pretty sweet. I just fell in love. And my journey has now brought me here, where I talk a lot about Command & Conquer now on my YouTube channel, my Twitch. I get some decent attention. I like to talk about games that I like to play. So here I am talking about Command & Conquer.
So a lot has happened since last time we recorded one of these. One of the big things has been that Rivals is officially out now. I'm just curious, what has everyone's experience with the launch been?
Well, there's definitely a lot more players out there, which is really great. I don't know what it's been like for you, Jade, because you've got the perpetual you've got the perpetual queue from hell. But my games have been quick, very diverse. So I'm enjoying the influx.
Yeah, they haven't quite reached here enough yet to lower the queue times enough to. But no, it's definitely been great seeing a lot of people around. We've had a lot of new streamers, a lot of just new faces in general.
Yeah, the Discord has become super active, as has the subreddit. It's just a whole new ton of people. In Lower Tiberium, we're now actually getting different strategies coming in, and people successfully getting the double harvesters and all that kind of thing to work. It's certainly mixed it up an awful lot.
Definitely. I've seen a lot of different strategies in the meta recently. In Terminus Shores in particular, we've kind of started a tournament alliance that has brought in a lot of the newer people. So it's been very interesting seeing just what they bring to the table that we didn't even think of to start with.
What about you, FourCourt?
Well, I wasn't part of Tiberium League when we officially released. I was still Masters at the time. And Masters is still quite full of double harvester people. Not a lot of aggro decks. Eventually did hit Tiberium about a week afterwards. And now, because challenge battles are great, because I get to see what you guys are doing without really fear of risking my medals. But I'm kind of caught between the two. There's definitely a lot of lower league Tib guys just like me that are doing double harvester, except that I'm still playing aggro. And then I'll get challenge battles where it's completely aggro, but you guys got usually levels on me. So I kind of bounce back and forth. My queue times are almost instant. Like when you're this far down the ladder, it's pretty plentiful to find a foe.
I'm very glad to hear that. It gives me hope that people are moving up. But yeah, we are definitely seeing a lot of the unit level issues as people come in.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest challenge they've had with launch is that I don't think they've quite found that balance yet.
Yeah, it's it's pretty significant sometimes.
It feels bad when you have single digits up against some pretty high double-digit figures, but you can still technically outplay them. It just gets a lot harder.
There's been quite a lot of chatter, shall we say, on that subject around the social platforms. Reddit is constantly inundated with people sort of having issues with not necessarily even just higher level units, but the higher level players, hitting gold, platinum, and diamond. and being like a level 20 odd player with level 7 units up against people who have level 50, level 60 as a player level.
Yeah, I know Gassy has been talking about introducing a form of challenge matches that would hit higher player levels as well. But a part of me kind of thinks that helps mitigate the problem. It doesn't really solve it.
It's a stopgap.
Yeah. I feel like the experience gain just isn't as fast as it needs to be. Whereas if you played in the pre-alpha, it used to be all this stuff was tied to medals. So it was like, well, if you're hitting Tiberium League, you at least have all of the units, you know?
Yeah.
I was watching a Korean streamer this morning because I was up early.
Let's go.
And he was level 48 with 4,200 medals on both.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a meteoric kind of rise, but it kind of just exasperates the issue, right? He has so many units not even unlocked at this point, and he's still able to kind of get to that point. But now he's definitely struggling. I don't know what his games look like off stream, but his on stream games was definitely struggling to hit the mark a lot of the time.
I definitely have trouble getting past 3,900 or so. I'm perpetually stuck down there in the 37s. To see people able to get to the 4,200s with not even all the units, that says something about the quality of the game as far as not having to worry about unit levels.
Now, I think that the issue that Jade is bringing up, though, is the people not in Tiberium, newer players to the game, because the pre-alpha definitely has that problem that is being described in terms of there are so many people with kind of inherited levels from the launch stuck in lower leagues, and then they match up against some new player base, and they're completely just overwhelming them either with levels or new units that they've never seen. And that does discourage the newer user from kind of continuing on because they see this and they're thinking, oh, there's either a giant paywall or this guy's paid a ton of money and I'm not willing to do that. And they just kind of put it in their head that this is not fair, this is not right, blah, blah, blah. I'm not having a good time, and they end up leaving.
I actually have firsthand experience with people at work who tried to get into the game and they just couldn't because of that exact situation.
I think Garsty had a good point on that, though. That when people were calling and saying, "Hang on, so shouldn't the beta players have been reset?" He said it's not a case of like beta players; it's a case of anyone who started the game before you.
That's always going to be a problem.
It's always going to be a problem. If you start playing this game in June 2019, anyone who started playing in February 2019 is going to be a higher player level than you. They're going to have higher unlocks than you. But yeah, with the talk of seasonal resets and stuff, I think that in itself should level out a little bit, especially the level discrepancies, that you slide back down, you work your way back up, earning new rewards. Those level caps for fair play will then suddenly come into effect a bit more. And challenge matches will be a bit more consistent. And then suddenly you'll come back to Diamond. You've hit Diamond with level 6, level 7 units. You suddenly slide back to Gold or wherever. By the time you're back in Diamond, you're probably at a more appropriate level for Diamond. You're going to be actually eligible for challenge matches, that kind of thing.
So in a way, it's kind of good that all the alpha players have a head start, so they can start figuring out and implementing ways for people to handle the gap, because the gap is just always going to be there.
Yeah, it is good they're seeing these problems now and can hopefully solve them in the next couple of months. That said, I don't think the season reset is going to fix it by itself.
Well, it won't because it's not tied to player levels.
Exactly. The other thing about the season reset is that outside of not being tied to player levels, it's going to create more problems at the beginning of the game because you're going to reset all those people down to bronze who are now going to be hitting the cap, whereas your new players will have come in with level 3 units who are starting in January or February or whenever this hits.
The worst I think I saw outside of Tiberium League was about a 4-level difference, and I think it was Platinum, and they had about level 10 units, and I have 1 level 10 unit to my name. So yeah, it's the player levels, or they're stuck there. Like the earlier created accounts will eventually solve itself, but as a short-term problem, especially for a game that just launched, it could really negate quite a bit of success in the next 6 months.
Yeah. No, it definitely has to be solved quickly.
Do you think adding more level gates in the Tiberium League will help at all?
Not for Tiberium League. But if you get to Tiberium League on low levels, or you don't even have max characters, then like that's just a testament to you. I don't think that really needs to be fixed. It's more about the intro, the first time experience, not chasing people away. That's kind of a big problem when it comes to your business development and your budgeting, because if you're not making money and people aren't playing the game, it's not going to go anywhere. And yeah, I have a lot of experience with titles that don't go anywhere. It's a problem. You know, you need to find a solution, and you're going to need to find something that will actually work and be accepted. And you're going to need to find it sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the solutions that I think Gasty put out there, though, was make challenge battles if you don't have an enemy unit unlocked.
Yes, they suggested that would be a thing, that if your opponent's deck contains a unit that is a higher unlock than you've reached, it would be a challenge match. Now, I would preface that by saying that I don't believe that there are any units later unlocked than 15 that don't have a counter by level 15. You can still do it, but I do completely understand that, yes, that does help alleviate that issue somewhat.
Oh yeah, it's less the lack of counters and more the lack of ever having seen that unit before.
Exactly. Well, someone pulled a Basilisk out and...
Oh yeah, it's knowing that, as you said, the Basilisk exists and that you can counter it with talons or something doesn't really help you if it's the first time you've ever seen it and you're like, oh, how many hit points does this thing have?
How much damage does it do? It hits me 2 tiles away. It flies.
It just killed how many of my Predator tanks? Like 3 of them? Before I figured it out. Yeah.
It gets more powerful when it fires.
There's a lot of new concepts introduced right there, right? Same with the Giga Cannon, same with any real 2-range unit, right? Throughout bronze, silver, probably gold, although I'm not going to hold myself to that one. You're probably not going to see those kind of units unless you have a pre-existing account or you've sunk some money into the game and you've gotten it through cards. Well, you had to have gotten super lucky to do that, but you know, it happens. And it's showing up on streams, it's showing up in Reddit threads, it's showing up in Discord conversations.
Yeah, it's something that definitely needed to be dealt with. I'll be honest, my initial gut reaction to it was that, hang on, at this stage, is pretty much anything that someone gets a little bit confused about going to be a challenge match? Is that then not going to create the problem of people getting challenge matches and win streaks early on and then being rocketed up the leagues to a place where their levels can't support them?
That is one of my other concerns, actually.
Yeah.
That with how many things we have that boost medals right now, people got from bronze to Tiberium League for starting out in like the first week and a half, which is great for them, but most of those people don't have the levels on either units or player, and something like the season reset that's going to happen, it seems, once a month. We'll see you in 1.3 hits how that changes, if at all, isn't going to make a difference if everyone just instantly gets up here and doesn't have the levels.
I think that's the idea, though, that everyone kind of hit Tiberium League at, or not everyone, but those people hit Tiberium League at a level that's probably not capable of supporting their placement in Tiberium League. Because of fair play not allowing you to slide back down the league, or because the system doesn't let you slide back out of Tiberium into Masters, you kind of get stuck there against a wall of impossibly high units. So when the reset happens, we all slide back to Platinum 3, I think it is, that they suggested with the current system, that's where we'd end up. Those of us who have got level 12 units and so on, we would climb fairly quickly because we're going to be league capped everywhere. We'll stomp our way back up to Tiberium. The people who maybe only have level 7, level 8 units come back down to Platinum. They start climbing their way back up and maybe stop in Diamond for a bit. They get all those extra unlocks on the way up. So they're going to level those units up a little bit as they go.
Yeah, but a lot of those people are still going to be behind in level in Platinum forward.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm just saying the progression
I'm not saying it's a quick fix. There needs to be something else.
Absolutely, there needs to be something else. I just kind of wish, on top of that, the progression was a slight bit slower, and the knockdown from the 1.3 seasons was a little less, so you could actually build your way up over time.
It's their first iteration at this kind of game, so there's obviously going to be some changes coming down the line. They've acknowledged the issue. We will see something of a solution. Whether it will be effective or not is going to be yet to be determined. But the first step of the challenge battle stuff, I think, is good, because that way the player will get experience playing against a unit that potentially can reward it for kind of being like, their first encounter, but it also doesn't punish them when they lose. And that's a big player feeling kind of issue when it comes to this game. When you lose, it sucks and you feel bad. If you lose repeatedly to units that you can't know anything about, or you don't know anything about, then that's when the feelings toward the game becomes a bit harsher. So I think it's a good first step. I'm curious to see if they will actually revamp experience again into third or fourth or fifth iterations, right? But the players have the game now, right? It's out. Overall, the levels will go up on average as people keep playing. And I think there will always be an issue of the people that don't advance kind of stuck in the lower that will prey upon the newer players. And I don't think that's ever going to go away to a high degree.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I kind of agree with you. It's just built into the system, but we'll see what they come up with.
So far, we've seen that the developers are pretty hot on fixing big problems like this when they see them. So there's hope.
And this is December, right? So November was American Thanksgiving into Christmas. We got New Year's, in 2 days? So it's been a slow month, understandably. So it's not like you can take this month as the de facto, they're just kind of taking feedback. No, it's a slow month. This is a bad period for the West for development. So come January, when everybody's back on their feet, I would expect some announcements within a month, to be honest.
Speaking of December, though, there is one thing they did give us, and that's new units.
Oh, yeah. The big daddy I was waiting for finally arrived.
I fully expect to see this every stream now, Silas.
Yeah, I'm desperately trying to find a new way to get the Avatar out as many games as possible. Because the only reason why I play anymore is to play with the Avatar.
Well, there's definitely YouTube videos out there. Like there's one guy that double harvests into Avatar, loses first missile, and then just builds nothing but avatars.
I don't want to be that guy, but I want to be that guy.
Can't advocate the strategy, but it's certainly interesting to watch.
It's kind of like forward basing with a pylon and a photon cannon with Protoss. Like, you can do it and it works sometimes, but I wouldn't. It's mean. And
good old cannon rushing, man. Avatar rushing would be a thing. I mean, like, if that was a thing, you'd probably have already seen mammoth tank rushing, and I've never seen anybody do that.
Oh God,
mammoth tank rushing used to be a thing when mammoths were cheaper.
Yeah, maybe in your time.
I'm just saying. The Avatar is cheaper, and I actually think it's the better unit.
The thing with the Avatar, fortunately, is it's cheap enough and it's fast enough that you can just get it out, and it's quick enough to actually move to a pad, contest it, and start its warpath. Whereas the Mammoth, being that little bit more expensive and that lot more slower. I mean, Jade and I did a couple of test matches with Avatar and Mammoth, and she ran a Mammoth against me. She managed to get the Mammoth out, but it didn't even touch a pad before that second missile launched.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speed's something that you don't look at a lot when you look at the strength of a unit.
Yeah, but it's a massive factor.
The thing I find truly terrifying about the Avatar really is that it's not just its speed, it's the fact that I can Oksana buff it, and it can outrun almost every non-tech vehicle in the game.
Yeah, fanaticism.
And it has
so much
Raider.
for suggesting that.
And it has Raider, yeah. And worse yet, it has Raider and it explodes if you kill it, so it doesn't even stop.
Yeah, that part caught me off guard the first time I saw it.
First couple games I played with the Avatar, it was very much okay, I'm attacking your tanks, I have it boosted, I'm just kind of going past, and it died, I guess I'll have to make a new one, and then it's like, oh right, it explodes and took out all your tanks. I forgot about that. It was a very pleasant surprise.
And importantly as well, whilst it's charging up for that explosion, it is still contesting the pad.
I can't believe it does that, to be honest.
I'm so happy it does that. I'm really hoping that never gets changed. That to me actually is something that's really exciting about it.
So you got to think about what the designation of who owns a pad, right? You have a body on the pad, therefore you are putting your mark on it, I suppose, right? A husk of a corpse that is still doing something, like exploding, still is on that pad under your designation.
I mean, technically the pilot is still alive at that point.
Kind of scary to think that avatars are piloted. I thought they were just kind of giant robots like X-Men.
Sentinels, yeah.
I'm really hoping the avatar doesn't get a whole load of nerfs. I'm just really hoping that the mammoth does get a whole load of buffs, dropping the cost, doing a couple of other bits and pieces to it.
Oh yeah, my experience so far with the avatar, because I haven't been lucky enough to get any more cards, because I did buy the pack for it because I was just so excited. It's probably the most I've ever spent on the game all at once, but I can't seem to keep it alive. It just gets massacred as fast as possible, which I suppose is what you're supposed to do to it once you see it on. But I haven't been able to decimate the way I feel like it should. But I still got a long way to go as far as leveling it up.
Yeah, equal levels, I think it's quite good.
Something I found that actually, running it recently just for a few sort of jokes, like I do, every time Champions comes along, I don't take it seriously because I'm not that much of a competitive player. I'm never going to get the 15-0, so I use it as a playground. So I've run the avatar and I've come up against a few players who are obviously either diamond or masters, and they've got level 8, level 9 units. And by the time I get that mammoth out, yes, I can imagine they are absolutely brooking their pants. But things like the MLRS and the Giga Cannon actually take it out really quickly at equal levels. Zone troopers, cyborgs, 2 squads of those will take out an avatar and just about survive.
Just 2 of them. 2 of them at the same time, or just
at the
2
same
of them?
time?
Okay.
At the same time, because while one of them's being roasted, the other one's dealing quite significant damage.
That seems to be a design rule that they're trying to go for, where 2 of the counter will be able to fight. So they did that to flames, and they did that to shock troopers, where equal level infantry units, if they double up, they should be able to take out.
Yeah.
Cyborgs also decrease attack speed, yeah?
Yep, and movement a little bit, I believe.
Yeah, they have EMP blasts.
I'm confused as to how an EMP blast slows down a flamethrower, but I'm not going to question that.
Well, it has a mechanism to squirt the juice out before it flames. So if it doesn't have a good flow, you won't get a good.
There's something
flame.
I never want to hear Silas say.
Listen, in the South, you tend to use words and adjectives that don't really sound all that well, unless you're with other people who know that you're not trying to be weird. And we also know how flamethrowers work.
Right.
Oh, there's a joke I'm not going to make there. But what about the MG squad? What about the MG squad? Because
that's actually one of the things that's been really funny about this unit launch, is that everyone's attention is on the avatar because everyone's wanted the avatar so much that I feel like MG squads have gone largely unnoticed.
Oh man, what a learning curve those guys were.
Yeah. They don't seem to have a lot of success in anything that I've ever seen.
I'm crushing with them on ladder.
Same.
On ladder.
8
Okay.
Yeah, at level 8 versus level 12 units.
Well, there's also still the shock factor.
Same.
involved.
Suddenly my nod decks are struggling, but my GDI, I'm absolutely, I mean, was it you earlier, FourCourt, messaged me and said, no, I'm just watching you lose to a Korean guy. As soon as I switched to GDI using my MG squad decks, and I've got 2 running at the moment, one with Pitbulls and War Dogs, one with Talons and Orcas. Both of those decks I'm crushing with at the moment. I'm suddenly getting close to the top 100 again, which for me is an alien concept.
Yeah, I've been friendly battling with MG squads for quite a while now, and the general feel of a lot of Tiberium League players has been these things are broken.
Really?
They're just really hard to use.
I guess I just haven't found the counter example to that yet in my travels.
Humvees and buggies eat them alive, but the MGs seem to be able to, like, once they're set up, they can chew
Absolutely.
They are literally the Scarab equivalent for GDI in the typical Nod GDI mirror, in that it's a distorted mirror. They're
In
the
some
infantry
ways, yes.
that sets up and becomes zone denial. If you catch them moving, they are super fragile. Once they're set up, they can become a huge problem to deal with, unless you have the hard counter.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problems with MG squads right now isn't that they aren't good, it's that the decks that want them aren't meta right now. Like, air decks 100% want MG squads. GDI air isn't viable, you know?
I'm having fun with it. I'm doing well.
So am I. I love GDI air. I play it despite it not working very well, but it's not going to be winning tournaments anytime soon.
The legend of Jade's talons, yeah.
I try not to play on ladder very much anymore because the talons just skew how I play the game, and that's not good.
I try my best to have just to play for fun. I'm trying to be competitive. I'm not saying I'm not competitive, but just trying out these new units has been fun. And they, everyone has their own definition of fun, but to me, giant robots are fun to play with, and the MGs they bring me back to my Company of Heroes days, where I would love to set up machine gun nests, and they kind of invoke this whole like come and get me feel, and I really enjoy that.
But yeah, we definitely haven't seen either of those units really impact the meta as a whole yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it's because of a lack of levels, and part of it's because, well, the Avatar is a tech unit, and honestly, they don't see a lot of play in Tiberium right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and with the Avatar being a level 60 unlock, it means that we're not going to see it impact at the lower levels, simply because people are reaching those, like Tiberium League, where tech isn't really viable.
Yeah.
Before they've even unlocked the Avatar, it's only once they've hit that stage and been there for a while that they're getting it. Same with the MG squad, it's level 40 odd, isn't it? It's an unlock 42, 44, something around there. 42. I was right first time. It's one of those units you don't really unlock until you're really quite far into the game. And by the time you're that far into the game, it's a level 3 unit unlock, and getting the cards to level it up. I anticipate that the MG squad will shift the meta a lot.
I do too.
It's just getting it to that stage. And the other issue, I suppose, with the MG squad is that, yes, they are super viable if you know how to use them. And they're that kind of unit that really does take a lot of micro, a lot of planning, a lot of effort to get working. And for someone, they're not a point at your opponent and it dies sort of thing, like the Avatar is, or like some other units that we've had added.
The biggest thing with all new units has always been having to get them up to levels. We've kind of been spoiled in the past with having large drops of crates and everything, as systems have been implemented at the same time. Like when the level system came in, we got back rewards for all of the levels up to 60.
I got really spoiled on that one.
Yeah, and that completely mitigated the problem of getting new units up to level.
Did that happen twice?
Yeah, that happened twice, because it happened once for the level rewards and once for the changed from sectors to leagues. But going forward, that's probably not happening anymore, and we need an actual solution to getting these things up to level faster, because this problem's only going to get worse over time.
The devs have mentioned that they are working on a system for that as well, that allows you to actually target a particular unit that you want to level up. We've no idea what that system is going to be yet, but they've suggested there will be a way to actually, pick a unit that you want to level up and work towards that.
I thought the request system was supposed to do that.
You don't want to get me started on the request system.
Oh, okay.
It's very flawed and has a lot of ratio problems.
That it takes X cards to level a common, Y cards to level a rare, and Z cards to level an epic. Obviously, we'll discount epic.
You can't even do epics.
Exactly. But your commons and rare requests are so skewed in favor towards commons, which I suppose is kind of the point of calling it a rare. But it does mean that your rares inevitably lag behind by quite a stretch.
In video games talk, rare doesn't really mean too much anymore.
I don't want to get too far into this because I could argue this all day, but one of the big problems we have in Upper Tib right now is our commons are all like 1 to 2 levels above our rares, if not more, and gaining faster. Mostly because of that donation system, because you get so many more commons than rares, and it's a real problem. And it means that in the case of something like the MG squad, it's like I can start requesting the MG squad to get up, or I can keep all of my commons up to level with everyone else. And that's not really a choice, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to be competitive, you have to keep up in levels.
If everyone else is running a deck of level 13 commons and you've got level 12 commons and you're trying to pull your rares up, yeah, everyone else is going to be having those full 13s.
Well,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and even if I was going to request rares, do I risk it on this new mostly unproven unit, or do I level my missiles or my pit bulls or something, right?
Yeah.
I will definitely be interested to see what they do, fix it.
I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? What kind of stuff could they do?
We know that the crates are weighted somewhat towards things you have less of. I almost wonder if it would be better if they turned that up a little, because it's so minor right now.
It does kind of feel that since this update that weighting has possibly bugged out or something. I'd like to see that weighting increased, definitely.
Let's move on a bit here, and let's actually talk about what the meta's been like in this post-launch world. Last time we recorded, there was actually a fairly large balance patch with 1.2. So how has that gone for everyone?
Well, I'll be listening intently to this discussion because I have been out of the meta for a little bit because of my move. So, please tell me what's going on right now.
Yes, we must prepare Jen for the challenges that he will soon face.
But I wanted to watch him flounder around tonight on a stream.
Well, you can do that too. That's still gonna happen. It's not gonna matter what you tell me.
Yeah, I've been watching Jen for a long time. There's no concern about that. Don't worry about it.
Fair enough.
I take the hit my head on a brick wall, which eventually it'll go through.
I think I'm the lowest of us here. So again, like I've been kind of ping-ponging back and forth between the newly minted Tiberium players to more challenge battles. I mean, I've faced Derek a bunch, for example.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, me too. I've hit Allied Kuchikikan. I can never say his name. But he's about number 20. So I've reached upwards into the top 100 numerous times. But when it came to the patches and the meta, I saw differences amongst a few different things. The first being, if anybody watched the first Mercenaries tournament, we saw a hell of a lot of use of 2-range units. And then all of a sudden, Giga Cannons were spammed everywhere. And ORS, all of a sudden, almost overnight, just kind of started introducing themselves very forcefully to my deck. So that was a big change. And when it comes to some of the balance patches by the devs, I didn't really see anything kind of like superimpose on the lower tip side of things, except that I saw a hell of a lot less Kane. He certainly got kind of back-to-back nerfed. The rise of the flame, all of the flame tank didn't really affect me in high masters at the time, but I know in the lower leagues, like it was just flame tank rushing, like a lot of double harvester into flame tank rushes, and not really much people in silver and bronze could have done about it.
I think there was a bit of a discussion with some of us about whether or not the flame tank should have unlocked at that particular level. The nerfs it's received, I'd say the first one was definitely viable. The second one I feel was a touch too far, but it's more the fact that the flame tank unlocks at a level where players don't have the skill and the knowledge to think about out of the box counters. It's very much I point this at that unit and that wins. I point this at that unit and it wins. Whereas the flame tank, you have to think a little bit more outside the box. It's not necessarily about destroying it super quick. It's about stopping it doing that rush. It's about blocking it.
See, for me, that's what I want from some of the low-level units, like the flame tank and the Orca especially. You'll notice a lot of new players complaining about the Orca, even though it's actually quite bad.
Yeah.
The thing is, you need those sorts of units so that people do learn that out-of-the-box thinking early. Because if that's something that unlocks in, I don't know, by the time you reach Diamond or Masters or something like that, you won't know how to counter it, and you won't be able to deal with other out-of-the-box things we get, like Scarabs and Infernos.
Scarabs definitely wreak a lot of havoc, even in lower Tib. I've definitely still lost to Scarab comps.
I think that's been an interesting part of that meta shift as well. One of the biggest changes there was just that little buff to Riflemen and Militants. Suddenly, everyone went from... We sat and watched Riflemen and Militants drop out of all the Tiberium League decks. Everyone was either opening with War Dogs or opening with lasers. And Riflemen and Militants were kind of these, well, what's the point? I use it to scout early, and then it's a dumb card in my deck for the rest of the game. Whereas now, you can actually open with Riflemen and Militants, and if you're clever, you can actually win against those Flames and Shocks again.
See, for me, that change did nothing because we all have like one higher level uncommons than rares almost by default at the top of Tib. So, and that was already the behavior. Like, I'm very happy it was done. I think it's a good change, but it didn't really impact the meta up here very much. That said, the Kane nerf definitely did. I'd never see Kane anymore. I think they just nerfed him straight into the dirt, which is very unfortunate because he was very good and fun to play. And now we're kind of lacking a Nod commander almost.
Well, I mean, Dr. Liang says hello from the bottom of the barrel, right?
I still see Liang decks, though.
And I still see Kane decks, but they're just not a majority.
I see no Kane decks at the top of the ladder. Like, Liang sees play in tech decks, and he sees play with some heavy War Factory builds. Alicia occasionally runs Liang. No one is occasionally running Kane.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I have not played against any Kane 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think, again, that's one of those where it was because he's quite a low-level unlock, and the Obelisk, again, can be very difficult to deal with in the early ranks. If you're not running air, or you're not good at micro, and your opponent has literally an Obelisk and an attack bike squadron nearby, you're not able to really deal with it.
It's one of those issues where you have this commander that seems to have such success in lower, but such abysmal performance in upper. Do you buff it or do you nerf it? Like which takes precedence?
You probably do some combination of both. But yeah, they I do think the Obelisk probably needed a nerf, and I think the second nerf was the better one. I think the first nerf went too far. I'm kind of on the page of, yes, reducing the time it was up is what needed to happen and will help a lot in lower leagues, but it should still cost 120.
Yeah, not nerfing the cost was, I think, big issue for a lot of people in the higher leagues. But again, it's going to come down to a lot of metrics, right? We can only kind of guess based upon our numbers and our experiences. But if 80% of 1,000 matches in lower say that it's overpowered, and 20% of the 10 or 100 matches you see in upper, where do you balance it, right?
Yeah, we definitely don't want it to be overbearing on any part of the meta. The other thing they seem to be trying to do is we've seen a couple of changes here and there with heavy anti-infantry units like Flames and Shocks. I know a lot of people have had issues with these as kind of being something you have to run. I'm just curious where all of you are on the balance of those.
If you're not running Flames or Shocks, you're probably not running a barracks. That seems to be the overwhelming kind of situation, at least for the 37 to 4,000 range.
Yeah, I still feel like they're very necessary units. Even with the nerf, they still dominate any sort of infantry build.
I think I'm going to be the contrarian here then.
Please do.
Possibly because now I'm running my GDI air deck or my War Dog deck, neither of which have Flame or Shockwave Troopers in. They use an MG squad as an analog at that point. I just block the Flame Troopers approach, set up the MG squad, and rinse them. And Nod, I've not been using Flame Troopers in most of my Nod decks. I still run Alicia's War Factory opening into Infernos and Phantoms, which does have Flame Troopers, and occasionally I get bored and run Seth as the commander, so I use his Drill Pod. But the vast prevalence of my nod decks recently have been militant and lasers only, moving straight into buggies. Now, I don't know if that's because I've got level 12 buggies, which quite a few people don't seem to have. It seems to be one of those units that people didn't really touch. And I'm having a lot of success with those, pulling those out early and just rinsing enemy flames and shots.
Yeah, I'm also running a Nod War Factory deck, and the buggies have been very good. They've received a couple of big buffs in this last month that I think have really put over the top.
Well, even level buggy will take out a laser, yeah?
Yes, just barely. But the thing is, as compared to rhinos, which also do it just barely, the buggy has enough speed right now that you can get multiple buggies and get proper surrounds almost constantly. So it kind of just works better.
Yeah. I mean, there is the alternative that with GDI, if you're running rhinos and war dogs, you can pull up a rhino in front of the missile squad and then shove a war dog unit into the side of them, and that really does help the situation. Same with, this is why I'm running militants and lasers followed by buggies. I tend to have like 2 militants on the field. They bring their flame or shockwave troopers out. I pull the militants back, ram a buggy into their face, and then just shove the militant squad on the side. Those flames go down super fast that way. So my personal feeling is that meta is beginning to die. I would like to see a little bit more done to flames and shocks just to even it out, because you see it constantly, people saying, oh, I've only got level 10 flames and shocks. As soon as I go up against an opponent with level 11 flames or shocks, I may as well put the game down. It's like, well, no. There seems to be this real big misunderstanding that the best counter to flames and shocks is more flames and shocks, which it just really isn't. And it's, I don't know, I'd be interested to know your thoughts, especially FourCourt on this one, having recently climbed up. But that does seem to be the prevalent situation, that people go straight into flames and shocks, and then it becomes like a mirror match until someone decides, okay, I'm bored of this, here's a new unit.
Yeah, it's usually me that gets bored of it, and then I lose first missile. But I can't tell you how many games does that. I always start off, well, not always, but I really do prefer to start off with rifles. And if I see rifles into lasers or a war factor or something, fine, no problem. But almost always it's going to be rifles into a rifle or a laser, and then their very next unit is flames or shocks. And then it's just a war from there. It's trying to get the 2v1s. It's and it does kind of work for people with buffs, Oksana and Colonel Jackson, I find, especially if you're deadlocked in this flame war and neither of you are double harvesting. The only thing that can change that is fanaticism or Colonel Jackson, whose name of the buff escapes me right now. But that is cheap enough. It's spammable enough. Thank you. Heroic Charge is available early enough that if you're stuck in with these flame wars or these shock wars, and you don't have those buffs available to you, it's almost like you automatically lose. So you need to start thinking about transitioning earlier, and that kind of doesn't work for a lot of people because they get stuck in the mentality of trying to counter it, and then you get Heroic Charge, you get Fanaticism, and then first missiles out, and you're kind of wondering what to transition to from there. That is majority. I'd say that's 60, 70, 75% of my matches to start off.
Yeah, I definitely think that flames and shocks are just too strong right now, and by extension, chem troopers, which are even stronger. But I don't know where that balance is. It's just, for their cost, they just seem to be the most efficient answer, and that's why we're getting a lot of these. That said, I do think they also shed light on some of the unit roles we're missing, and also maybe some unlock times that might need to be changed for the lower leagues. Because it's like, if I'm running Nod, I can completely avoid running flames if I'm willing to run chem buggies. But you don't have those in low leagues. And on GDI, I don't have something like that, so I can't really do it.
Yeah, there's no, heavy's the wrong word, but no strong anti-infantry role in the GDI War Factory.
Or even in the GDI Air Factory, really.
Yeah, you kind of go straight from shocks and flames, from shockwaves straight up to disruptors.
Pretty much. Rhinos, War Dogs are both great units, but they take an age to kill a flame or a shock, and so do Talons, because they aren't Venoms. Let's put it that way.
I think that's the issue. It's getting it into people's minds that, putting out 40 cost unit to try and beat another 40 cost unit. Whereas pulling out a buggy or a rhino or something, that's suddenly 40 for the War Factory plus 30, 70 cost. It's a considerable Tiberium input. You kind of have to almost accept that you're going to lose something to those flames and shocks, wait a couple of seconds to get that 30 extra Tiberium, then pump out your unit to counter it.
Yeah, switching to the War Factory from the barracks is usually just you losing the first missile if you are in a flame shock war sort of mirror, because you just don't have the time to get something out.
I suppose that's why I've started running the decks I have. I go with like that militant unit at the start. If I see flames or shocks come out, I look at my Tiberium. If I haven't quite got enough yet, I throw out a second militant squad, get it in there and hope that I can take that flame out, wait for their second flame unit to start wandering across the battlefield, then transition into War Factory because you've got just enough Tiberium and time to do it. It's risky. And the only way I can really see of dealing with that is, what do you reckon, like a cost increase? Maybe moving flames and shocks to 50? Or is that just going to push them completely out?
I honestly don't know. They're very precarious as they are. They've either been too strong or completely unplayable.
Mm.
I'm just hoping something gets done with them eventually, but I don't know what that should be.
It's a fun game, but we're obviously running into various different issues in our different leagues.
While we're on the topic of the meta and kind of moving into our next topic a bit, you talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's been really amazing to see how, with community tournaments starting up and everything, the meta has shifted around them. Because I kind of expected the meta to shift when we got CNC TV, because I figured, oh, well, people will watch higher level matches and they'll learn a bunch and it'll kind of all shift downward. But that didn't really happen. And with the tournament starting up, I kind of thought, okay, not everyone's around the Discord. Not everyone's going to know this is going on. And I was just completely mistaken that, no, Giga Cannons to do in the tournament? Well, guess what the meta is now? It's Giga Cannons.
Well, monkey see, monkey do, right?
That's always been esports, though. The monkey see, monkey do aspect has been prevalent in numerous games over the years. Because it's like they see this awesome new strategy that they never considered, and they see the strengths of it, and they're like, "Oh wow, I really need to go try that." And then all of a sudden, you have Giga Cannons everywhere. You have MLRS. You have whatever the next big fad is.
That's the interesting point that Jade raises there, though, that tournaments that are something that are external to the app itself, but something that not a lot of people are necessarily even aware of, unless you're on the Discord, unless you're on the Reddit, that kind of thing. How is that opening people's eyes to these new strategies when CNC TV is right there in the app? It's a tool that you can, not even CNC TV, you can open up the leaderboard, look at the top level players and see what they're playing. You can look at their match history and see what kind of units they're running and strategies they're running. Why is it that tournaments are changing that, but not CNC TV?
That's just basic human social interaction. People love tournaments. People love getting together and watching things happen as they happen. It's kind of a bummer that Rivals at this point in time doesn't do a lot to facilitate tournaments and friendly matches in that. But they kind of, like what you were saying, kind of speaks towards how excited people are about getting into these tournaments and watching players live with stakes. Because it's different when you're like, oh, well, like I'm on my app and to play a few games. I don't really have the time to watch a few replays, rather than like, okay, I'm setting this period of time ahead of time because there's this big tournament that everybody's watching.
Yeah, the power of esports.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, we do know that 1.3 is going to bring about custom lobbies and spectating so you can battle people outside your alliance and such, which I suspect will really kick off the community tournament scene a whole lot more than it is even now.
Oh yeah, you're probably going to see a lot more external factors that you probably didn't even think about affecting the game suddenly propagate.
Speaking of the tournament scene, we've had one community tournament so far, plus we're, at the time of recording, halfway through the Flamer Festival. Let's start by talking about the first tournament, the Mercenaries Holiday Tournament, which they ran for a prize of $100, I believe.
The Mercenaries was $100 US, yes.
So I think a lot of people came out of the Mercenaries tournament with kind of mixed feelings. But in fairness, it was the first Rivals community tournament, and they were very much laying the groundwork. So, what is everyone's opinions on how it went and what went well and what should we learn from going forward?
Who wants to tackle that one first?
Well, you gotta learn how to walk before you run.
Well, considering it was at 1 a.m. my time, my biggest thing with community tournaments is I'm waiting for one that runs on African or European time. I feel you're probably best equipped to deal with that one, FourCourt.
So I watched the whole thing in entirety, and I'm actually rather shocked at how long it took to execute. I didn't realize they were running a complete double elimination reset bracket, which I think hurt them in the long run, to be honest. For a first go at it, especially since the games are so quick, right? I can understand the mentality of you really want to make sure you get as much as you can from these guys, but the entirety started 6 p.m. 7 p.m. my time and ended around 1 in the morning. And I know that Blade, who got to the finals with Alicia Destiny, was in the UK, so it was 6 in the morning for him. Definitely not great player experience when you're kind of forced to kind of play like that. There was not really any kind of breaks. There was a lot of gaps between games. But as Jade said, it was their first attempt at it. A lot of lessons were learned, but I don't think it was the shining gem that a lot of people were hoping for.
Yeah, I definitely agree on all those points. We had issues with times. There were issues with sort of the communication between the person who was streaming the tournament and the people who were running the tournament. And the stream in general, I know a lot of people weren't a fan of.
Well, they didn't set up an actual like commentary stream, right? This was all kind of done very low key, grassroots community. Again, it was their first shot. Easy. I'm not entirely sure if he actually intended to do a professional kind of setup or something mimicking a professional setup, but obviously that's not what came to be, right? It was just him. I thought he was actually in a hotel room, like to be honest, but apparently it was just his bedroom. But like it was just this one guy sitting there trying to play his own games while keeping some content for people to watch. So I commend him for that because we all got this focus point where we could all kind of go and watch these top players play in semi real time, right? But in terms of an actual like production or entertainment, it definitely wasn't that. And I just don't know if they were ever aiming to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of whether they were aiming to do that or not, it quickly became clear what people were expecting. And I think tournaments going forward really have to take that into account. That people aren't looking for that laid back, easy stream. They're looking for people who are going to talk about the matches and commentate them and all of that.
They're looking for something like Worlds or the StarCraft esports that are fully shoutcasted.
It's I know they're expecting it, but realistically, you can't ask that for a $100 first tournament of a game
Oh, I
with no
definitely agree.
sponsors and no pro players in the scene. Like I know we call a lot of the top upper tip pros, but nobody's sponsored. Nobody's getting paid to play this game. Maybe outside of Bike Rush, who has virtually the only successful stream we got right now. I know people have those expectations, and that's a problem that is not only being seen here, but I can't ever imagine that they were planning to put that on, and what we got out of it was completely not that.
That is another problem as the tournament scene is starting to grow here, that we just don't have the resources to do that yet.
So if those are the sort of the issues that we faced with that particular tournament, what can we say went really well? What did we learn as something that we should keep doing with these tournaments?
Personally, I think we got a lot of really good games out of that tournament. It went phenomenally well in that regard, and while it definitely did go too long and they probably should have split it up and done it over 2 days, I think they did something very right in having as many games as they did and having the double elimination bracket. Like, there were so many games in the lower bracket that you just wouldn't have seen if they had just said, "Oh, no, we have to be faster and cut this out and kinda keep it down."
Well, we didn't exactly cover a ton of games in the Mercenaries. Like, I went through and recorded a bunch of replays, and then I made a YouTube playlist out of it. I think I got to cover a quarterfinals, both semis, and then the finals. But it took so much just crawling around looking for the replays because we don't have a really good way. Like if the player lost, or even if the player won, like by the time I got around to recording them, it could have been hours after their matches. If they played ladder, the game's just lost forever unless they're favorited, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of kind of scrabbling together, trying to get everything done. When I went live that night, about 4 hours after the tournament started, I expected it to all be kind of wrapped up by then, and I could just kind of pick and choose and go and do it. And that's not what happened at all either. So there was a lot of good things that came about it in terms of proving that, yes, you can run a tournament. You can get some really big, community names there, and it's a good focus point for a lot of us that are interested in that. But in terms of its success as an entertainment or a production, I mean, it just wasn't there.
It was fairly niche, you would say then.
And I think it will remain niche for a while yet, anyways. Like, until we actually see some bigger announcements of money or tournaments or sponsorships, this scene's not going to explode. Like, it's just not that kind of game.
Definitely. And that's part of what I'm looking forward to hearing from EA is what they're planning to do to push this, since they are doing that esports focus, apparently. And they will have to be the ones who push that forward.
One thing I can say on that front from a personal perspective is I speak with the guy who runs Fiery Tail Gaming, which is a small esports team.
Fiery Tail?
Yeah. So I know Fiery Tail are looking to start up a small esports team for Command & Conquer Rivals, and they're looking for information on seeing where this game actually goes in that regard. So that'll be interesting to see. I mean, this community tournament, I'll be honest, most of my experience with it was just watching FourCourtJester's excellent YouTube videos on it. So I haven't had a chance to sit down with the Flamer Festival ones yet. Obviously, with this being over the holiday period, I've been fairly socially busy, but I will, I'm very much looking forward to getting to sit down and watch those replays as well.
Speaking of the Flamer Festival, let's move on to the second tournament. At the time of recording, we're actually recording on the morning of the second day of the Flamer Festival, so we don't know who won, which you will definitely know by the time you hear this, or how the second day went.
Alicia Destiny.
yeah, probably. But I'm really hoping there's an upset. I'm really hoping there's an upset and we get someone like Banana Force winning just out of nowhere. It would be so great.
He's in the semis. Because the Flamer Festival came after Mercenaries, right? I know there's a lot of corrections kind of made. You saw what was going right and what was going wrong. You tried to make the changes to, and overall, like, having something of a production seems to have gone over very well with the community. But the big thing for me is like the new names, right? The upsets, as you said it, right? You look at the bracket, Iraqi Zoro got knocked out first round to Mav Mitchell, which is a complete reversal of the Mercenaries tournament. Yeah, complete reversal. Iraqi brought a Giga Cannon, which knocked Mav out of Mercenaries, and then Mav brought an air deck this time that knocked Iraqi out first round. But it's like, I wouldn't even say that Iraqi is completely winning that matchup anyways. Mav is a fantastic player, but the upsets throughout the brackets to make our top 8 are actually like kind of boggling the minds of some that know a lot of these names.
I mean, I was knocked out of my first match in the tournament.
I tried to be kind. I really did.
In fairness,
they were terrible games.
Oh, they were. I agree. They were terrible games. I had other issues outside of Rivals that were kind of interfering with my play a little, to be perfectly honest. But it's not like Lefebvre didn't deserve to move on. I think even if I had been playing at full strength, he would have been a tough opponent. So I'm quite happy that they got to move forward, because I literally was not up for a whole tournament based on those first couple of games.
I'm sorry to hear that you were knocked out so early. I didn't catch most of them because I was moving, but I definitely plan on being in the next tournament. Hopefully I don't get as destroyed as some of the other people seem to go.
I need to go and find these replays now. You beat Jade. I've never even come close. I think the only time I've ever beaten Jade was in a friendly match where she was using a mammoth tank.
I've only beaten Jade once, I believe, on stream.
You'll be very disappointed.
Only one time.
They were awful games, and I mistimed things, and I didn't get...
Yes, you did.
I came in with an MG squad deck, and here's the thing. That deck has beaten pretty much everyone on the top of the ladder in friendly matches. I've been practicing with it for weeks, and during the tournament, I just completely botched the timings on getting MG squads out. And if you do that, they just die. So don't take that as an indication of MG performance. They're very good. It's just, I just didn't
This
play them
tournament
well
has
that
definitely
day.
trashed both avatars, because we've seen one game of that lose, and MGs, because we have 0 wins from MGs in this tournament. And surprisingly enough, Gasty is actually the wild card right now, because he has brought a
I
double
love it.
tech Juggernaut deck and has won 3 of the 4 matches with it.
And the thing is,
Yes.
one of those matches was versus Fallen, who everyone expected was like, oh, well, they'll be in the quarterfinals or the semis, no problem. And it's like, you just lost
now,
to a
to be
double
fair,
tech
Fallen did win the
Juggernaut
next
deck.
one, because as soon as you see a Juggernaut deck, you typically switch into air.
He did.
But the third match was definitely a Gasty win through and through. And that was Scarabs something. It wasn't a very weird Nod deck at all. There wasn't anything unique about it, but he definitely ran Scarabs every time he swapped a Nod.
Yeah, which are also a unit we haven't really seen in
I see it in
either tournaments or ladder play, really, after a certain point.
Yes.
Well, after you hit a certain point, they stop existing. And it's not because they're necessarily bad units, it's because they fit in a very small number of decks, and you can only level so many things up. So Scarabs are pretty low on that list.
I guess, Jade, you must be pretty excited now. You've spent most of the pre-alpha and launch saying that Juggernauts are the best unit in the game that no one can get to use, get to work properly, and there's Gasty actually doing it.
I'm really happy to see the Juggernaut farming. It is honestly my favorite GDI unit. I've tried to make them work every single meta.
Wasn't Innate trying to do that as well?
Yes, Innate and I believe Sidel also have tried it pretty consistently. And everyone kind of agrees. The Juggernaut is like stupidly powerful. It's just the getting it out and getting it set up that's difficult.
One of the lines of commentary from Poochie's, who's been on the mic with me, is he's never seen a Juggernaut actually hit a pad before. And Gasty was actually able to advance it inch by inch into the middle of that battlefield. Yeah.
I know. It's astonishing how both effective and, well, not just effective, just how much more effective
it's been
Gasty's
really fun
Juggernaut
to watch,
has been.
For sure.
Juggernaut play has been than anyone else, because we've been trying to make these things work for a long time. I'm not sure if Juggernauts are viable or not. I haven't played against... Well, that's not true. Immediately after the tournament, I hit Gasty and ladder and crushed his Juggernaut deck with Nod by just throwing a cannon at his face while he was busy trying to get tech up. But I think that's kind of an exception more than a thing that's going to happen when you try to run
lesson
tech.
there is, if you see Double Harvester early, punish. Charge Missile, punish Harvester, keep their attention away from the mid, and very much focused on defense, and you'll have an easier time of it.
But yeah, I'm definitely hoping that Gasty's performance in this tournament kind of, if it doesn't bring Juggernauts into meta, at least pushes the attention on them up a bit, so that when they eventually are completely viable, we'll have a lot of people looking to do that rather than the handful we have now. Exactly.
He will take on Doom today. It'll be Gasty versus Doom, and then the winner of that is the winner of Soft Serve and Banana Force. So I suspect we'll see at least one Juggernaut match in the matchup between Gasty and Doom, because they're best of 5s, whereas the finals are best of 7. No, that's a lie. Semis are best of 5s. So this will be a best of 3. I expect one Juggernaut match, but we could see more as the games start lengthening after quarterfinals.
Yeah, I hope he gets past that point. And it's nothing against Doom. Love Doom. I'm glad he came back for this tournament, because he had actually quit Rivals just before this tournament started. But I think he's been drawn back into it with community tournaments, which is great, and I hope he keeps coming back, because he's a good player.
Yeah, if nothing else, he pretty much helped me get into Tiberium League.
But much as I love him, and he's part of the my alliance and everything, I can't help but hope that Gasty just goes all the way with this Juggernaut tech.
I always enjoy playing against Doom on my stream.
I just really want to see Gasty win this with Juggernauts. It would be so great and out of nowhere.
Wouldn't that be kind of a weird thing, having a dev win
A
win
little
community
bit,
tournament?
but
Proves that actually, in fairness, that the devs in this game, we consider them part of the community.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to look at it.
well, and it's also a very good sign of where we're at with them understanding how to balance this game, that so many of them are doing well and know how to play and are performing even at equal levels in tournaments. But moving back to the ongoing tournament, you've been streaming and casting the games for this tournament, right, FourCourt?
I have indeed. Yeah.
How has that experience been?
Well, it's a little different, right? This is the first actual attempt at a tournament that I've actually put into it. Everything else has kind of been solo work, which, when you do solo work, it's a lot of just talking to yourself. It's never really talking and having a conversation with others. I have Poochies and I got Jeffrey CNC, who I've noticed has actually both joined Terminus Shores now. And that's, it's been better, right? It's not the full desk StarCraft kind of professionalism, right? Because it's the first tournament. We wanted to make sure that people that didn't even know what the game was could come in and they could feel the atmosphere. They see all the people in the chat and they feel welcome, right? We don't want to throw a ton of terms at them and be like, oh, of course, he moved it over here and that's just going to give him so many advantages. And people are like, what? He just moved a unit, right?
Yeah.
We didn't want to go quite like that for the commentary. So we made the decision after talking with Coda and yourself, Jade. Help Me is really aptly named because he's certainly been helping shape how we set everything up in this tournament, right? But we definitely went for a bit more of a casual, conversational kind of way to go about it. Explain some of the more obvious things for people that might not know it, but at the same time, we can still get really deep down and say, oh, see, this micro right here really, won them the game because of X, Y, and Z. So it's been a fun experience. It's definitely something I want to do more of. As Poochies and Jeffrey, I don't know if they have aspirations to keep doing it, but we definitely had some talks after our first go at it. Today we're feeling pretty comfortable, and hopefully we can improve our synergies a little bit more. There's always a danger of putting together new personalities because you don't have synergy with them. You don't know their habits or their talking points or when they take in breaths because a lot of it's breathing, believe it or not. Like you can almost tell when somebody's done talking versus when somebody's not done talking. And if you haven't figured that out, you're probably going to be running into each other quite a bit. But it's been good. It's been a good experience, and I'm happy that you guys are able to get me involved with that. And it's just 2019. I'm really curious where this game will go competitively, and I want to make sure that if I can contribute to that, then I'll be in a position to do so.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of how you've been handling this tournament and just in general been doing commentary. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more from you in the future on that front.
You've become a fixture in the stream for sure.
Just a little.
Every night I go live, it's like, oh, Jade's here. Great. She could do it wrong. So I do thank you for your patience on that.
It's great to see that there's more and more content creators coming onto the scene. We've got people at sort of a much lower level. I've noticed quite a few of what I would refer to as younger kids almost, just making their own little videos. And I think a lot of that comes from people like yourself who are doing those videos and doing them really well, that you're inspiring a lot of people. And that only benefits the community, because the more people get inspired by that, the better this community grows.
I'll take the compliment, but I think more love for that would be thrown towards people like Brian CNC or Poochies or Excoundrel, because they're actually like putting effort into their casts. Like the acting on instinct stuff from you, Benzie, is like a completely different league of the stuff that I do, because it's produced, it's informative, it's meant to be a knowledgeable resource, whereas I'm just talking about a game, right? I don't throw any production value at it. I don't have fancy thumbnails, and I don't know how to tag things on YouTube very well. So I would probably accredit that more towards you guys rather than me, but I'll take the compliment.
I'm genuinely being serious. Well, again,
Aww.
Thank you. God, this is just going to become a bit of a circle, isn't it?
These guys
I'm genuinely
put on the brakes, right?
I'm being serious. You know, yes, on the one hand, I'm doing the informative and the sort of knowledge basis videos, but the stuff that you're doing there, it's something that I've actually had a lot of people on my channel requesting. Can you analyze these replays? Tell us what the thoughts were, what this person's doing, what you're doing. There's only so much that I can do as a knowledge video. And Excoundrel, his video format is very much, you know, I'm going to talk about something, then here's a replay. Whereas you're just going straight in with that replay, shoutcasting it, and discussing the thought process, why the players are doing certain things. And I think, in fairness, that it's kind of a more advanced tool, but I think it's definitely an equally powerful one. I can tell you everything there is to know about a certain unit in one of my videos. You then show people how to put that into practice.
This is it. I'll take the flattery, but I've never really thought of it that way. I'm just lazy and I hate video editing, so that's why they're like how they are.
It works.
I just don't have the time, man. Our videos, we do them because we love, right? We love to do them, and that's no matter what the product is, no matter who the creator is. You know, I've been watching Terra's stuff since before I had access to the game. I watched Silos. I've been watching your stream since before I had the game. Although you don't stream as much simply because you're moving and you have in real life stuff. You know, coming back when you did voiceover Pete memes, like that was the best, man.
Oh God, no, I'm coming back. Don't worry. It's been crazy. I haven't quit Rivals. I haven't quit streaming. It's just
you just need Jade to start streaming now too, and we're all good.
I have been streaming
or showing up in my streams.
I've been very busy with holidays that have kind of kept me from streaming recently, but I definitely want to get back into it. It's been a couple months, unfortunately, which is not what I had intended.
Life is funny that way.
Do you have any further intentions, Jade, of like content or anything like that?
I am hoping once 1.3 hits and we get the nice new replay UI to start a series that just goes really in depth on analyzing replays at some point here.
Fantastic. Well, there you go, folks.
But I don't know when that will be because we don't know when 1.3 will hit. So
after the holidays, or in Blizzard speak, soon, TM.
Yes, soon, TM.
Can you call it Jade's Jump Jets?
I was thinking more of like, JDI.
Darn it, now I have to think of a name. I'm sorry, this is going to take months. Forget the 1.3. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that. One of the things I've been doing since the beginning of the pre-alpha is, if you don't know, I'm in almost every Alliance Discord, and a lot of that's because I like to be able to go in and see what someone's doing and how the meta is shaping up where they are, but also so that I can look at the replays, and when they ask for advice, I can actually do that analysis. And this is really just a way of formalizing that and hopefully spreading it a bit more and maybe hitting some more people with it than just the one person.
Mama Jade nurturing her community.
Oh,
we're getting there.
Gen Silos, don't leave the point. Come on,
you can do it. I believe
you can do it.
Yeah, I've been doing that in streams too, haven't I?
The CNC tournament account or Rivals has already tweeted that my stream will be live soon. So
yeah, I think Coda's going to start pestering me any minute here.
Oh, he's already pestering me.
See, he's pestering the wrong person because I'm supposed to be editing this. So FourCourtJester has to leave us to actually host the second half of the Flavor Festival today. So where can people find you, FourCourt?
My usual spots is anywhere FourCourtJester. It's a pretty unique name. You can't really find it anywhere else, but Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. I have a Facebook page, but don't go to it, please. It's all /FourCourtJester. It's all completely branded, completely correctly. Took a while, but yeah. Twitch and Twitter is where you can normally find me. You can also find me in the CNC Discords. Definitely like to hang out there. Definitely had a few people message me there. It's like, oh, hey, you're here too. And we catch up. I've actually reconnected with more people than I thought I would over this game. So, the system clearly works.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, FourCourt. It was really great having you along for this episode.
Oh, it's always fun to talk the current interests. So thanks for having me, guys. really a big fan of everything you guys have done. And yeah, as I said, I've been watching you guys forever. And Jade has also become something of my mentor, at least for yelling at me during the streaming times. So yeah,
I'm hoping that's a good thing. But
I think it's a good thing.
Of course,
I'm just dreading the day that you're like, it's not worth my time anymore. You just stop showing up.
Nah, that'll never happen. I mean, I've been watching Jen streams and doing that for how many months now?
Shade thrown. All right. Exit Jester, go. You guys have fun. I'll see you on the stream.
Looking forward to watching it.
Have a good one, buddy.
See you later, buddy.
Bye.
So that about wraps it up. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back next month. But in the meantime, Benzie, where can people find you?
Anyone looking to find my content, you can mainly find me at youtube.com/Captain Benzie. That's where you'll find my acting on instinct videos and my intel reports. That said, I am very active on Twitter, which is @CaptBenzie, and of course on the CNC Rivals Discord, and I usually lurk around in the subreddit.
Thank you, Benzie. And Jen, where can people find you?
Well, I usually stream on Twitch twice a week, Gen Silos, as in General Silos. I am featured in a lot of videos on the Rivals Replays YouTube channel, so you might see a few of my games on there from time to time. And I'm also a moderator on the official community Discord, so you'll see me pop in to break up fights every now and then. So, so you can find me a little bit everywhere.
And then for myself, despite not streaming for the last month for a variety of reasons, I do actually stream occasionally. Twitch.tv/JadeXyan. And as we spoke of a little bit earlier, I am going to be starting a replay analysis YouTube channel. Otherwise, I am also active in the Discord and also now a moderator, so you'll see me around. So thank you all for joining us. See you next month.
See you next month.
See you on the battlefield, everyone.